From Fox 35 Mission Control, an out-of-this-world discovery. NASA says it just found a new planet.
Shocking, right? Yeah, the James Webb Telescope spotted it just outside of our solar system.
It started like so many other days at NASA. Quiet, calculated, wrapped in the sterile hum of machines and the glow of screens. But somewhere deep inside Mission Control, that stillness was shattered. A signal, faint but deliberate, flickered to life. And in that moment, something shifted. Not just in the minds of the scientists watching, but perhaps in the very balance of the universe itself. Because this time, what the James Webb Space Telescope found didn't just defy logic. It threatened to rewrite the story of who we are and what might be watching us. The telescope had been scanning a familiar section of deep space, a faraway window framed in stars, ancient and silent. It was supposed to be routine, another cosmic postcard from billions of years ago. But then it saw something different. Not a supernova, not a swirling galaxy, not even a distant planet bathed in the light of some alien sun. No, this was something else, something that didn't belong. What it captured wasn't random, chaotic, or natural. It was ordered. It was perfect. A lattice of light, dozens of glowing points spaced with impossible precision across millions of light years. Stretching out like an invisible hand had etched geometry across the canvas of the cosmos. It was beauty, yes, but it was also wrong, so mathematically exact that it made your breath catch in your throat. The kind of beauty that doesn't emerge by accident, the kind of beauty that's built. At first, the team questioned their instruments. Maybe it was a glitch, a processing error, but the data was clean, verified, repeated. Independent observatories confirmed it. What they saw was real, and when the Webb telescope peered deeper into that light, it found something even stranger. Patterns in the energy, rhythmic, steady, pulsing like a heartbeat. It wasn't just light, it was a signal. The realization hit like a wave of cold air. This wasn't the universe talking in the chaotic, beautiful nonsense of natural noise. This was something deliberate, something steady, something that didn't drift or fluctuate or roar like the birth of a star. This was whispering, or maybe waiting. The spectral analysis began. Teams around the world stopped everything. There was no other choice. The signal was modulating, changing slightly depending on where and how the telescope looked. It almost felt, though no one wanted to say it aloud, like it was aware. Not alive in the way we understand life, but aware in the terrifying, ancient way that something far greater than us might be. Watching, listening, reacting. And then came the possibility no one dared put into words but could no longer ignore. What if this structure wasn't natural? What if this pattern was crafted, not by the blind laws of gravity and time, but by intelligence? Intelligence so far beyond ours it might as well be magic? It wasn't a question of if anymore. It was when. When did they build this? When did they send the signal? And if they've been here, if they left this behind, or worse, if they're still watching, what does that mean for us? The light from that structure began its journey when the universe was still young, barely hundreds of millions of years after the Big Bang. If someone had created it then, they had existed almost since time itself began. And if they're still around, they may have seen civilizations rise and fall like sparks in the dark. Ours included. It was the kind of discovery that didn't just break the rules, it threatened to break our minds. Because staring into that cold, perfect pattern felt like looking into a mirror and seeing not your reflection, but your insignificance. We have always believed the universe was indifferent. Vast, yes. Dangerous, yes, but indifferent. Now, for the first time, we're not so sure. Now, there is the possibility, no, the presence of something else, something ancient, something watching, and that changes everything. The data kept pouring in, line after line of spectral code, glowing quietly on monitors that lit up the faces of stunned researchers. They weren't blinking, they weren't breathing, because the longer they stared, the more impossible the truth became to deny. This wasn't noise, this was language. Not one we could read, not yet, but it had structure, layers, hierarchy, repetition so exact it felt less like a pattern and more like purpose, like something was being said, not shouted, not broadcast, but planted, hidden in the deepest darkness of the universe like a seed, waiting for us to grow far enough to see it, to recognize it, to feel the hairs stand on the back of our necks in wonder. Was this meant for us? The scientists tried to stay calm, but it was impossible. They whispered to each other behind locked doors, careful not to let fear slip into their voices. Because fear changes everything. It wasn't just what the signal was saying, it was the question no one could escape. Why now? Why would something place a signal at the edge of the observable universe? A place so far away, so deeply buried in time, that only the most advanced instrument humanity has ever built could detect it. Unless, of course, that was the point. Unless someone or something wanted to be discovered, not by chance, but by design. That idea was a blade slicing through reason, a signal hidden in light so old it came from the dawn of time, shaped with such precision it laughed in the face of chaos, built to be noticed only once a species reached a certain level of awareness. We looked, we found it, and now, maybe the game has begun. Some called it a test, others a warning. A few dared to think of it as an invitation, but every theory led to the same cold, terrifying realization. This was not static. This wasn't some long-dead artifact echoing blindly through the stars. The signal was changing, subtle shifts, slight variances, as if the source, whatever it was, knew we were watching. And that thought brought silence into every room it touched. Because if it knew we were watching, then it must be active. And if it's active, it must be alive. Not in a biological sense, but in the way stars are alive, or hurricanes, or great machines older than memory, living through momentum and will and purpose. If something still existed at the source of that signal after billions of years, then it wasn't just advanced, it was immortal. And that made it the most dangerous thing we've ever encountered. The implications went deeper than anyone wanted to admit. If this was the first of many such messages, could others be hidden closer? Could signals like this be buried in the very fabric of space, waiting for us to look with eyes sharp enough to notice? Could we have already seen them and failed to understand? What if this is just the beginning? Now every strange reading, every cosmic anomaly, every flicker of unexplained energy is being reanalyzed. Suddenly, the universe isn't silent anymore. It's whispering all around us. And we're only now realizing we've never really been alone. We've been blind. What made it even more disturbing was what the signal didn't contain. No coordinates, no origin point, nothing to trace. It had no fingerprints, just complexity, rhythm, and silence. Like a voice calling from behind a wall we can't yet break through. And so we're left to wonder, are we being watched by something waiting patiently across time, gauging our reaction, testing our resolve? Or have we triggered a chain of events we cannot stop? The most brilliant minds in the world now lie awake at night, not out of curiosity, but fear. Because this is not a story we get to control. We've opened a door, and what lies beyond it may not care about us. It may not even notice us. Or worse, it might be watching closely. The James Webb Telescope was built to help us understand the beginning of everything. Instead, it may have shown us the end of our innocence. And now we can't look away. In the hours, days, and now weeks since the signal first appeared, something has changed, not in the stars, but in us. The hum of our world feels different. Cities continue to buzz, children still play, and machines still move steel across oceans. But somewhere just beneath the surface of every conversation, every quiet moment, there's a tremor. A realization too big for most to speak aloud. We may not be the top of the chain anymore. It's not panic, not yet. But it is unease, a haunting, the feeling that something ancient has looked back at us for the first time, and that maybe, just maybe, it's been waiting. In laboratories across the globe, researchers are trying to decode what Webb uncovered. Some stare at screens for 18 hours a day, driven not by ambition, but by a gnawing need to understand what we've stumbled into. They run simulations, build models, cross-check every anomaly. But no matter how much data pours in, One question looms above them all, like a storm cloud. Should we answer back? Because if this is a message, if this truly is communication, then it's incomplete. It's missing the second half. Hours. And yet to respond would mean breaking the silence, shouting into a void that might not be empty. Would it be curiosity or hubris to reply? And what would we even say? There are no protocols for this, no prepared speeches, just the quiet weight of a choice that could ripple across the stars. Because if this signal is part of something larger, if it's only the first breath of a conversation billions of years in the making, then the moment we answer back could be the moment everything changes. Some argue that the silence of the universe has always been a kind of safety, that the absence of noise meant we were alone, and in that aloneness, we found security. But now the silence is broken. Now we know the quiet wasn't empty. It was full of something biding its time. And worse, what if this message wasn't for us? What if we intercepted something never meant to be seen by eyes like ours? What if the act of looking awakened a slumbering awareness, not out of malice, but out of recognition, like a light flickering on in a room that had been dark for eternity? What if the very act of seeing was the trigger? It's possible that whoever or whatever sent that signal anticipated this, that they've done it before, that every time a young civilization peers deep enough, they see it, that the pattern isn't just a message, it's a threshold, and we just crossed it. That's the terror scientists don't know how to measure. This isn't just a discovery, it's a transition, from isolation to participation, from wonder to consequence. And now in control rooms glowing with infrared images older than human civilization, men and women are forced to confront what it means to be noticed by something far older, far colder, and perhaps far more intelligent than ourselves. There's no going back. The Webb telescope has shown us too much. The truth isn't something we can unsee. The message isn't something we can unhear. It's out there, encoded in the heartbeat of the cosmos. And maybe, just maybe, it's still beating. We've stepped onto a cosmic stage we didn't even know existed. And in the vast, echoing darkness, something is listening. So now the question is no longer, are we alone? The question is, what happens next? And only time will tell if we were ready for the answer.